Don't any of you have the guts to play for blood?
I'm your huckleberry. That's just my game.
Here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to MythVision. I'm your host, Derek Lambert. Yesterday, we hung out. I did a live stream with you. Let me turn this camera and try to get this angle right. Sorry, the blaring light through the window beaming in. Holy freaking smokes. How's everybody doing in the chat? Let me see you in the chat here. Sorry I didn't come like fully prepared for this thriller movie and to talk to you about it. I must give a warning now, and I'll give it again when I start to talk. This is going to be what do you call it when you're trying not to tell the movie and you don't want people to know the movie if they haven't seen it. Help me out, fam. Everybody, myth visionaries in the chat, what do you call it when you don't want to give people too much about a movie? Spoiler alert. There we go, Mark. See, we got some no spoilers. Listen, this is definitely gonna spoil some stuff, okay? On the live yesterday, someone was like, have you watched, they super chatted, have you watched Heretic? And I'm like, nah, this is the second time someone told me I need to watch it. I'll watch it with the Queen at night. And we have a little ritual. See, everybody's a little bit religious, right? Meaning patterns and just repetition, kind of tradition, if you will. And at night, we like to watch either TV shows. By the way, we're trying to, if you have some absolute gangster shows to watch, let us know. We've watched like Breaking Bad. We've watched the whole Sons of Anarchies and the different like real pop level. But if there's any hidden gems, please inform me. So last night, I get off the stream, I eat, I survive somehow, and I say, let me check out this Heretic. So I go turn it on, and then the Queen's like, no. There's a new episode of The Last of Us. I watched the new episode first because The Last of Us, I played the game. If you don't know about that game on PlayStation and Xbox, Last of Us 1, Last of Us 2, you're living under a rock. If you don't play video games, I understand. If you do and have played video games, disgrace upon you for not knowing this game. The story in that game is one of the best story games that I've ever played. It grabs you right out the gate, right? So we watch The Last of Us. We're already heartbroken because of the last episode, even though I know what's going to happen. It doesn't change the conclusion, okay? It doesn't change it. So I'm like, all right, what's this Heretic all about? I'm like half into mine. I don't know if you do this too. Half into my phone, checking notifications, refreshing the same screen 80 times, and watching the show. And until the show is good enough to suck me out of my phone into the screen, I don't know if the show's that good. Like I'm half paying attention, half not. And then there comes a moment where something just, hold, put my phone. I can't be on my phone with this. What is this on the TV right now? Now, when that happens, they did a good job. That's my judgment. Okay. It's subjective, but they did a good job, right? Heretic did that. And the Queen was like, is this going to be one of these boring Bible videos that you're always doing and talking about? Because she's not into this material like I am, right? She can get into it, but like, it's not her thing. It's just not. So we turn on Heretic, and again, spoiler alert, 2 Mormon missionaries, they're young girls, totally innocent. How many people have you converted? 9. You know, like they're just like little on fire for Jesus Mormons, sweet on a mission to try and save people with the Church of Latter-day Saints, Joseph Smith ideology. They're in their dresses, they're headed door to door, trying to convert people, and it starts off pretty, I mean, it's really good. It's right out the gate, get you, right? So before I continue, I'm going to pause, check you out here in the chat before we dive any deeper into Heretic. I want to correct some stuff. I'm tired of this being the thing that we have to correct, but we have to do it because it gives a terrible impression to bona fide actual heretics or actual people who legitimately have sufficient argumentation with historical primary sources, the whole nine. And if you watch the movie, you know where I'm going with this. I'm pretty confident you know where I'm going. Okay. Now, what kind of heretics do we have in the chat? And are you real heretics? I need to know, right? So, okay, starting up at the tippy. Again, thank you for being here. Like the stream. Comment your thoughts along the way. And super chats, I'll try to interrupt what I'm saying to jump on them because you're helping me keep MythVision going, providing for my family. This is what I do for a living, and I really appreciate all the support. So become a member, whatever. All the support is definitely I thank you for that. My family thanks you for that. And so smash the like button, ladies and gentlemen. All right. What's the movie about? In a nutshell, a lot of the movie is like, minus the thriller and the horror and the evil, the movie mostly is like engaging in this philosophical, historical, mental game of like, why believe in your message, being critical. So that's it's about 2 Mormon missionaries who go to a man's house to convert him. But damn, I didn't know that this was what this movie was like. What just happened? So that's what the movie's about, and you'll know more as we go along. Again, spoiler alert. If you do not want to know what this movie is about, you might end up tuning out at some point and be like, I gotta watch it. I gotta watch it myself. So I like it. It's on Max if you have Max. Just happens that I watched the movie last night. Then you'll follow along. And listen, I went on Reddit after the movie because this is how I am. I'm like, okay, what are they saying about this? What are people saying? What kind of interpretations? How do they understand this? And that'll get you stuck for a couple hours just figuring out what a movie might have meant and hearing different positions. And there's interesting interpretations. But I'll tell you, when I went to Reddit after, I thought I got to watch it again, I guess, because there seems to be so many things from the very beginning of the movie that you have to rewatch it now that you know it in order to pick up those things. The best example I could think off the top of my mind is the movie with Leonardo DiCaprio. In fact, let me scroll down here because you'll probably be able to look this up easier than me. Shutter Island? I think that was the name of the movie. And a spoiler alert on that. Listen, I'm going to hurt your feelings. If you haven't seen Shutter Island, it's been out for over a decade or something. He is going to this island where there's mental hospitals and there's some wild, crazy, padded white room people that are trying to explain their situation. And he's thinking that the doctor's evil and that there's, I can't remember the exact details, but at the end of the movie, you find out that they're trying you as an experiment, hoping to recuperate or help heal you because when you got back from the war or something like that, your wife had offed your 2 children. And in the process, you lost your mind. Leonardo DiCaprio lost his mind. So they're doing this experiment, and you find out at the end, after the entire movie, all along, it was all a ploy to try and help you remember and to snap out of it. And in the end, it's obvious that you weren't, or Leonardo DiCaprio wasn't going to snap out of it. So then he had to get a lobotomy. So this is one of those where I felt, whoa, I got to go back to the beginning because the man's house that they approach seems to have this planned. It's like he almost had it coordinated from the outset, planned on what he wanted to do. Wild. Okay, scrolling up to the tippy again here. I gotta try and get through these. Yo, Kithias, good to see you. Misinterpretations, what is up? Stay tuned for the interview that she did with me. Mark, spoiler alert. Yep. Boss, wasa. Maya, good to see you. Justin G, alternative building. Neo's up in here again, just giving you love. Andres, loved that movie. Watched it with my wife in the theaters. Interesting. I'm an ex-Jew, so it brought me sour memories. Interesting. The Butler did it. If it's not a good movie, spoilers don't really matter. Well, it depends. If you watch it, you might go, that was actually really good. And I'm not a big horror guy. I don't really care for horror flicks that much. This was one of those where there was a couple moments like I can't because my anxiety, I'm watching it going, it's like, dude, don't go in that room. Why are you going to go in that room? You just saw 10 bodies. Like in reality, like you're struggling, like, dumbass, wake up. What are you doing? That's how I feel. So I can't help but want to turn my head in these horror videos going, no, you have no control over I want to use the word dumbassery in the video because they're doing something stupid and you're like, no, dude, you just saw a guy's head roll on the floor. Why are you doing this? That's how I am with horror flicks. So there was a few moments where I felt that way in this movie, but I was able to ride the whole way, seatbelt in, and didn't jump out of the vehicle. Okay. So patting myself on the back for that. All right. It's an excellent movie, religious horror. That's the best. Yeah, that's how I'd put it. The Expanse. Severance, so good, Misinterpretation says. White Lotus, but give it a few episodes to get into the first season. So this must be going back to shows that I should watch. I'm going to have to go back through these after the stream and see if there's something we haven't watched and something might grab us. Someone said The Expanse was lame, right? So it depends on your taste, I guess. All right. Wendy, you got to check it out. You really should. It was good. I'll give it I don't know what I'd give it. Probably, I'd say maybe like for me on horror, 8, it was like really good to me. I'm going to say 8.5, 8, because I like the things that were discussed, the kinds of discussions. I'm into that. But I'm not going to lie, if it did not make skeptics look terrible, you could walk away from that movie and be like, man, it just so happens that the skeptic, the heretic, always is the evil one, right? And it's obviously fictive, but you kind of wonder if the producer is poo-pooing people who are critical or skeptical in some way through this video. All right. I'm not a heretic. My religion is the only true one. It's what every Abrahamic religion has ever said, and others as well. But yeah, of course, that's actually the point of the show. If you watch the movie, the Mormons are right, and their religion is the only true one. And it's a fascinating thinking game, mental exercise. Let's put it that way. So for those who are faithful and my Jesus is the only way, yeah, that's I kind of see the gullibility in these two girls in The Faithful. And in fact, it's not like I'm making this up. Go read Lucian. Lucian of Samosata literally calls Christians, what does he call them? Simple-minded. He's talking on behalf of this sophistry, the first lawgiver, Jesus, who was crucified from Palestine. And then he mocks Peregrinus, who was a Christian teacher and writing material, because the Christians were so gullibly susceptible, believing in this complete con man as their leader, and practically worshipped him as a new Socrates. This is from Lucian in the mid-second century. Common Era, he said the Christians are just gullible. They're dullards. They just blindly believe, and they're just not critical in their thought process. And that goes way back to one of the earliest non-Christian sources being critical. And of course, we also get Celsus. So it's a really interesting thing to see this history. Okay. Yes, you are, Wendy. Is the movie good, worth watching? I think it is. I enjoyed it. So, and I'm not a horror guy, but if you like horror, you might like it even more. So that tells you something. If I don't really care for horror thriller, but I was drawn into it, you probably will enjoy it if you do like at all horror thriller. Like I literally skip scary movies usually because I'm like, I can't stand watching. They're walking into the room. They see the blood. They hear the screams. They like, dude, what are you doing? Or yeah, I don't know. You know too much when you're watching it, so it's a pain in the butt. Yeah, Lou Reed. We're gonna have a real good time together. There we go. The Church of Core Horror. There you go. Dude, this is something you should cover because you're ex-Mormon and you know this stuff from Mormonism and some of the comments that were made by the heretic in the movie about Joseph Smith. I mean, I might as well dive into some of this. I really, really do. I'm never going to catch up to everybody here in the chat. Which movie? Just join the chat. Go to on Max. I don't know if it's anywhere else, but on your app on your TV, Max, watch Heretic tonight. And here's the thing. Maybe even if I spoil it for you because you're watching this, I still recommend watching it because the acting is phenomenal, in my opinion. Like the two girls, outstanding acting. There's just, even with me giving you some of this, because we're not playing any of the movie, I will play one spot, one of my most critical spots. I will play. And it gets into something that is in zeitgeist. And it gives what happens is it poisons the well for all skeptics who are critical and their reasoning for not believing Jesus' story over all these others, the exaggeration without the primary source backing it. I want to just discuss that briefly for those who've seen the movie, but when you go to watch this movie, you will see and be like, I see what Derek's saying. And it sucks that maybe they intended this. I really wish that movie producers who are covering stuff like this got bona fide people who really dig into this material, who know comparative mythologists that are like experts to help give the best case to a heretic or a skeptic. Though I do agree with many of the heretic character in this movie, their assessment on many things. However, he just turns out to be some like control freak murderer. Okay. Insane. Ryan, good to see you here. It's been a minute. Exit Music here, just scrolling down, trying to get through some of these here. Exit Music, Man, Bear, Pig, and the Hizzy. Marilyn, good to see you. Good to see you. Mark, yeah, that was a crazy movie, yet he made good points too. That's a fact. That's what I was trying to get at here. Really good points. This is the movie Heretic. So let me scroll down. I see I got a member here. Did someone just sign up for eternal salvation? Amy wants pure, unfiltered, absolute immortality, and you got it just now by joining the member. That's how easy salvation is. Yes, you can purchase it. You can earn it, okay? In fact, that's the only way to be saved. Just saying. Totally teasing. Totally teasing. Okay, I really do need to get into this here. I want to make sure everybody's cool with that. In the chat right now, are we ready to discuss? Are we ready to just get into this? Spoilers and all? Give me a 1 if we're ready in the chat to get into the material, to start exposing the movie and telling secrets that you don't know yet if you haven't watched it. But if you have watched it, cool. Give me a 1. Let me know if it's time. All right. Amy is saved. How does it feel, Amy, to be saved now? I know it must feel great. The placebo effect, the whole audience here is rooting you on. You can hear the music in the background. I mean, thank you for being a member. Seriously, Amy, I really appreciate the support. It means a lot. Let's see. Marcel with the 1. Misinterpretation is ready. We have a 1 by Joshua. Baron, 1, 1, 1. We got a lot of 1s here. All right, it's time. Okay, get ready. Here we go. Let me give you a synopsis, a little rundown. 2 Mormon missionaries at the beginning talking about they're on a mission, and one of them seems to be more gullible, it seems, but extremely passionate and exciting, looking up to someone who had 9 conversions, converted 9 people to Mormonism, becoming new members of the church. And they go to this man's house. Strangely, when they knock, and there's a winter storm coming, like a blizzard. They knock on the door. The guy finally comes to the door, and it seems that he had requested material to inquire about their church. Well, these are 2 females, and they say, we can't enter unless your wife is home with you. We need a female present. He's like, yeah, my wife is here. Okay. They enter in, and then makes them uncomfortable, but then comfortable. Uncomfortable, then comfortable. It's a very odd tug of war. The entire movie has a tension about it where you don't know what's going to happen. In fact, I'd say 60% through the video, I'm like, is he going to kill them, or is he just playing games with them? And he's just scaring them into questioning their faith. I didn't know where it was about to go, right? So then they sit down, and he's like, let me go talk to my wife. She's baking a blueberry pie. What the hell happened in this movie was nuts. So he brings 2 sodas and a candle, and it's lit. He lights it in front of them, and he's talking to them. And they're like, when it gets really uncomfortable, at that point is when they go, can we please get your wife? Can you please have your wife? You know what? Let me go back and talk to her real quick and get her out here. He'd come back. She's a bit shy. She's in the back, though. We'll meet her in a minute. Well, I'm skipping some details, but in this dialogue, he is asking about the church. They seem enthusiastic and just like as if he has no clue what he's talking about. He's just being friendly, and then there are moments where it feels weird. He makes a comment about there's metal in my walls and in our ceiling. Is that okay? And like, yeah. But like that was it and moved on. It was like, metal in your walls and your ceiling? If someone told me, if I walked in their house, hey, I have metal in all of my walls and ceilings, is that okay? Hell, what the hell are you doing with metal in your walls and ceilings like that? Like, what is that okay? Hold on. I'm going to step outside and stay out here, especially if I'm a female and there's just this guy. So there's already little like signs. Something's off. He starts to talk about Mormonism and asks questions. He's doing a Socratic method, if you will. He's doing street epistemology, so to speak, with these Mormons. And he then goes and grabs, I'm skipping material here. Remember now, I watched it once last night, but he grabs the Book of Mormon and throws it on the table, and both the Mormon witnessers, the missionaries, if you will, look and see all these tabs. I mean, there's footnotes and tabs, and like you can tell this dude has read the Book of Mormon inside out, front to back to front, upside down. Like this guy really, really studied the Book of Mormon. Like you would probably imagine looking at my Bible and all these highlights and these tabs and everything. You'd be like, what the? And one of them is like, you read it more than we do. You know it more than we do. And that's a fact. I mean, he clearly does know their religion better than they do. But he's trying to softly critique, not go too far to like make them panic and absolutely lose their minds. And that tension is there. There finally comes a moment when he goes to try and get his wife or something, and goes to the back and says, meet me in the back. The sharper, you could tell she had street experience. That's my interpretation. Like, she's not a gullible, raised in the church person. Me and the queen think the actress the one with the dark hair, she had much more awareness of being tricked or someone's up to no good. And you could see it with the tension she expresses. And the other one's just like, he did what? And like, you don't know what they're doing or where they're at. The one with the black hair then turns the candle for all of a moment. Like after he said his wife's baking blueberry pie, turns the candle, and the candle is blueberry scented. So like, hold on. Why do you have a blueberry scented candle? I thought that was your wife's cooking in the back. So she's picking up signs, but she's panicking like, we need to get out of here. And then they end up in the back. Okay, I'm jumping the gun here. When they end up in the back, this is like, if there's there's really 4 levels, but let's just say there's 3 levels. Entry to the door. This is where the real shit starts happening. And you don't know if he's going to kill them or if they're just learning a serious lesson about their religion and trying to understand religions. And I was cool-ish. Like, obviously, the guy was rude in some ways, but I'm like, okay, this is a creepy thriller that maybe he's going to let them go in the end, and like they're going to walk away and go, damn, I'm done with the Church of Latter-day Saints. I'm moving on. Joseph Smith, all of that. It gets crazier. It gets crazier. So again, spoiler alert. Oh, we got another immortal in the house. Man, bear, pig. And by the way, I've seen his icon in ancient Egypt with the head of a man, the body of a bear, and the hoofs of a pig. I'm telling you, I've seen it with my own eyes. I'm an eyewitness that he is an immortal. Thank you so much, my friend, for becoming a member of MythVision. You've been around for a long time. I really do appreciate you. So now they're midway. He brings out, he plays music. He's doing all sorts of stuff, but he's playing this music, and then he pulls out board games, and he shows Monopoly, and is like, you want to play a game? And then, the tension of him being a serial killer or something goes away for a moment, and then they're like, okay, like maybe he's not crazy, we're gonna be okay. He's gonna let us go, but he's like not letting them leave in a way. So he's like, look at this Monopoly. This Monopoly, it has a get out of jail. You got the jail, you got these places. And then he explains how there's an earlier board game like Monopoly, but Monopoly pretended that they were the first and the real Monopoly game, and they ended up like monetizing it, and not just monetizing it, but monopolizing, pun intended, but they monopolized the game and took full control. So we got the landlord's game right here, right? That's the name of the game before Monopoly. I didn't know this till I watched this movie. I was like, what? That's interesting. So Monopoly pretends to be the game as if it wasn't inspired and copying this earlier, the landlord's game. Then he's like scaring them again, brings out the Quran and Judaism and Christianity, the cross, the symbols. He brings their books out. Then he plays the game, the song again, and he goes, you ever heard this song? He goes, yeah, you just played it. No. He's like, this song is an iteration, and he's talking about Creep. So for those of you who are like, you've ever seen or heard the song Creep by Radiohead, it's like, the I'm a weirdo, what the hell am I doing here? That song actually really they copied, or they were inspired by a 1970, let me get the actual radio. So here it is, right? Let me share this screen with you to show you what he does. It really was like, whoa, okay, this is kind of what we do with MythVision. The chord progression and melody in Creep are similar to those in 1972 song The Air That I Breathe, written by Albert Hammond and Mike Hazelwood. After Rondor Music, the publisher of The Air That I Breathe, took legal action, Hammond and Hazelwood received co-writing credits and a percentage of the royalties. Hammond said Radiohead were honest about having reused the composition, and so he and Hazelwood accepted only a small part of the royalties. So I didn't know this. I love that song, Creep by Radiohead. Didn't know that they copied the air that I breathe, or like copied some of the style to write that song. Then in January 2018, the American singer Lana Del Rey said on Twitter that Radiohead were taking legal action against her for allegedly plagiarizing Creep on her 2017 track Get Free. And he asked for 100% of publishing royalties instead of Del Rey's offer of 40%. She denied that Creep had inspired Get Free. Radiohead's publisher, Warner Chappell Music, confirmed it was seeking songwriting credits for all writers of Creep, but denied that a lawsuit had been brought or that Radiohead had demanded 100% of royalties. In March, Del Rey told an audience, "My lawsuit's over. I guess I could sing that song anytime I want." The writing credits for Get Free were not updated on the database of the American Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers. So before this stream, I thought, I'm going to listen to this song. By the way, if you notice the background, just for this video, there's a scene in this movie, in case you're wondering, and it's freaking, oh, dude, it's wild, okay? It's freaking wild. We're jumping the gun. Let's pause. We'll get there. So I listened to this song. I had never even heard it because in the movie, they don't play the song Get Free by Lana Del Rey, if I'm saying her name right. So I listened to it. I'm not going to lie. It sounds like she is absolutely using Radiohead's Creep to help make her song. If you try to tell me this was coincidence, it'd be one of those coincidences that are just so rare that it randomly happened. It's almost unlikely to be believable that she's not inspired by Creep. I listened to it. I'd never heard the song before, and I was like, yeah, that gives all the tones the same beat, very little differences in my view. So he lays out the Quran, he lays out the Bible, well, he lays out in order: Judaism, the Torah, then the Bible, then the Quran. Then he lays out the games, and he shows you Monopoly. He shows you the older, and then he shows you like a newer version. And then he shows you a Mormon book, which he slaps on top of the Bible. And the Mormon book equates to this like newer version of Monopoly that's like the most updated iteration of that older original version. What I didn't like about the video or the movie, in my opinion, because I'm such a stickler about the data, but it's a movie. You can't be overly pedantic about having everything. I would just argue that the Judaism is not original either. Like it's literally turtles all the way down. Well, turtles all the way back in my view. Myths and storytelling go back into prehistory. So there's no telling where this even begins, right? But he just starts with Judaism, the actual original. And I'm thinking, really? Original? Anywho, that's my little pick, right? He teaches them by showing them that the songs are copying each other and are inspired. Then he shows the books, and then he shows the game pieces, and he's giving them an educational thing. And they're like, can we leave, please? Over and over throughout this, can we leave? And there's two doors, one on the right, one on the left. Well, he finally gets to the end of this little lesson he's trying to give. He writes, no, pause. I'm about to show you the scene. We're going to go through this. Then we're going to get to what he writes on these two doors, and they have to make a decision. Okay, let me share this. Sorry, I'm trying to be as accurate as I can, but I'm also trying not to get too lost in the weeds. All right, here we go. This is a scene. I'm going to pause along the way. I do not want to get demonetized, and I want to make sure that everybody is understanding what's going on. He is about to explain to them gods that predate their Mormonism, but really Christianity. Let me close this here real quick. All right. Let me know if you hear this.
Story of a savior who was born to a virgin, who could perform miracles, and was supernaturally resurrected was a very popular story for at least 1,000 years before Jesus was born.
Okay. Am I here? I didn't want, there's no way to watch it. Am I still here? Is everything good? It can come up a hair. Well, I wish I could. I'm gonna have to pause it along the way because this is a movie, and they'll ding me. Might even shut the stream off if I keep continuously playing it and not explaining along the way. Now, he just explained that this miracle virgin birth was like 1,000 years before Jesus was born in stories, right? The virgin birth. And I think this is probably one of the more accurate things he says. The more accurate thing is just these divine births. Now, I don't think it's 1,000 years. Maybe we can find some ancient source that is more explicit. But I know there are some pretty old stories. I was doing a deep research online, and there's Huji Lord Millet, Chinese culture hero, Zhao Dynasty legend poem from 1000 BCE. And there's primary sources for this, but the legendary first ancestor of the Zhao dynasty and a god of agriculture was said to be born of a virgin named Zheng Yung. The Xijing, classic of poetry, Odi Xing Min, dated to Zhao era, recounts that Xing Yung was barren and without children, stepped on the footprint of the high god Shangdi while out in the wilderness. This caused her to miraculously conceive Huji. As one modern summary of Xijing Ode. Anyway, I'm just giving you one example. The quote says in Ode 245 puts it, his mother Zhang Yung stepped in the footprint of a god and became pregnant with Hoji. Anyway, that's one. And then the scholarly commentary. This Chinese account is an ancient pre-imperial tradition. That's the oldest one that I have found that seems to record a virgin birth in some way where she's not had sex and there's no sexual interaction. So what you will find gods who impregnate women who were virgins through sexual intercourse. Okay. Where it's not as common, but there are implications that can be interpreted a few different ways, is Zeus, for example, with Danae, the mother of Perseus, which we get in Justin Martyr talks about Perseus being born of a virgin, literally virgin birth. And the oldest source we have for this is 6th to 5th century BCE. So at best, 500 to 600 years before Jesus, we do get an implication that a golden shower of Zeus impregnates her. Now, why I said this can be interpreted different ways is the stories vary. Some of the stories imply that Zeus was like passionately wanting to have sex with her. And so in the form of rain or in the form of gold, a golden shower, he impregnates her somehow. Okay. But the interpretation, especially by the time you're at Justin Martyr and the common Greco-Roman magnetic asceticism that everyone's going toward in their philosophical schools. So like there's a huge trend of like metaphorizing their myths. So they don't take their myths to be that the gods literally slept with them, but they're repeating the stories, but interpreting them not in a sexual way. We get this with Plutarch talking about the birth of Plato. We get this with Justin Martyr's hints at comparing Jesus with other gods. And to take it just, I guess, a step further, the birth of Augustus. Let me come back to me full screen real quick before we continue the video, because I think it's important that I nail this down to say, I think this is the one place that I most agree with being accurate on the assessment. Births, virgin births, even though it wasn't maybe 1,000 years, unless you go to the Chinese, there seems to be, maybe, right? The movie could have done better on being factual for the heretic, even though he turns out to be this absolute monster. And he's doing zeitgeist, because you're going to see in the video, like what he does next. Augustus, it is said in Suetonius' Lives of the Caesars that the god Apollo in the form of a serpent, this is all the account says. Well, I'll give you the detail after, but he slithers up in the form of a snake to the mother and then goes away. Like it does not detail or describe any sexual union or anything. It does hint that the mother went in and cleansed herself or cleaned herself as though she had like laid with her husband in bed, that kind of thing after. But there's no account of a sexual union being explicitly described in Suetonius. So maybe I need to talk to a classicist and get their opinion on this. However, I just want to make that point because in general, this guy is on point. This horror movie does correctly have this guy recognizing iterations, influences, stories are not original. They're passed along and they're recycled and stuff. And that is no doubt what's going on with the Bible, with Judaism, Islam, and Mormonism, and any other variation of the Abrahamic religion, but any religion, really. Every single religion on the earth has recycled in some way something around it. That's a pretty bold claim. I'd be shocked if you find maybe a example contrary to that, but that just seems to be the no-brainer, obvious conclusion. And the virgin birth thing seems to be a big deal. So now we must get back to where I definitely think that they're just factually wrong. And so if his whole case is we got iterations, and this is my argument, this is where the IPs of the world, this is where the Eric Mannings of the world, the apologist will come in and go, ha, 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 ha. We got you now. This is not technically correct. And this is not, and it's like, oh, it's like, yeah, maybe there's not literal Xerox. Maybe there's not, but like as if you could just hand wave the whole damn thing. There's nothing to this. There's nothing to comparing Jesus with these other gods or with these other figures. And I think that's absurd. But that's exactly what videos like this are low-hanging fruit for that kind of person. And if we just are a little more technically correct about what we say, that seems to be obvious that that's the conclusion. And the heretic would be right. Anyway. Right? All right, here we go. Continuing this scene.
Mithras performed miracles. He was marked by the sign of the cross. All right.
Oh, hold on. Coming back. Okay. I don't know where he's getting that. Perform miracles. From what I understand from the primary sources, we don't have any written accounts. Maybe he did somewhere, but even the experts on Mithraism that I've read don't say that there's documented accounts of miracles like you see with the stories of Jesus. However, the Toratomy, the bull sacrifice, there's a lot of cosmic imagery, and he's obviously sacrificing this bull, which I've done my documentary recently in baptism. If you didn't watch my baptism documentary, you really will get lost in the weeds on this. It's deep. There's one of the statues has this Nama Sabe, and it's Sanskrit for like glory. Nama is a Sanskrit word for like glory or like homage, adoration, like you're bowing to a divinity. And then Sabazius is it's an iteration, if you will, of Dionysus. So Mithras is sacrificing this bull, and we have another Mithras one where he's sacrificing himself. There's a knife that's actually going into himself. So there's this deity Sabazius that's being not Mithras himself sacrificing himself. He's sacrificing Sabazius. So sorry, I'm butchering this. Anyway, my point is that might have some influence, at least, that this common idea of a god dying, Attis dies, the dying and rising motifs. And there may be something to that in Mithraism. I haven't found any sources that say he was marked by the sign of the cross. The miracle thing I already discussed. There is a lot of interesting things, though, with Mithraism, and worthy of an examination just as something to compare and look at as another cult, another mystery cult, where their devotees would become immortal by participating and initiating themselves in this. Mostly Romans. Roman soldiers were the most common. Now we need to move on to Horus.
Horus walked on water, was crucified, had 12 disciples. Krishna.
Okay. I'm just going to leave this up. I didn't find any source that Horus walked on water, was crucified, of course. I don't know of anywhere where he died in that way, or had 12 disciples. Therefore, Horus is never comparable to Jesus. You see what's going on here? Like, if we can't find the Xerox copy, if we can't find this, then we shouldn't be equating or even trying to compare. And this is what I think the problem was with D.M. Murdoch's work when I was researching this 8 years ago, 6 years ago, 8 to 6 years ago, because I'd go look up a primary source to try and find and fact check something she might say. Like she made a claim, for example, that Hammurabi went onto a mountain just like Moses onto a mountain and received the tablets of stone, the law, right, from Shamash. You can see there is an inscription where Hammurabi is standing in front of Shamash, and there's the law codes that obviously are being gifted to him. But I never found a primary source that just said, like, when you exaggerate your source or try to make connections where you don't need to, because there might be other examples that are comparable, people will go, oh, that's a lie, now you're exaggerating. You're technically becoming the apologist in the opposite direction, in my view, if you don't have a primary source that actually vindicates that exact thing you're trying to make the argument on. Let's just be factual. They're all man-made. Jesus is man-made as well. So why aren't we just trying to be as honest and factual with the data? There's no reason to make it up. Even though I will admit, Zeitgeist did draw me in originally. Like, whoa, let me do this comparative mythology thing. I had no clue whether or not this was factual or not. But it was the first time my bubble popped as a believer on going, you mean I can really compare Jesus with other gods? There's maybe something to this. That's what Zeitgeist did to me. It didn't prove that it was comparable, that he's got 12 disciples just like Horus, and they're all born on this time, this and that. But I will say this, it helped me adventure beyond that bubble I grew up with, the believer bubble. And even though it wasn't factually 100%, it led me on my path, started my journey, so to speak, to actually start analyzing and researching myself from actual academics and critical scholarship to see what's true. Well, that whole thing, again, gets just poo-pooed. We can find flaws in it, therefore you can't listen to them. And it's unfortunate that there's so many flaws you find in apologetics that people still listen to them, even though they're making up stuff a lot of times. And they're either they're not giving enough to the comparability, or they're exaggerating in other ways. All of them died. The disciples, why did they all go to their deaths? Why didn't they just recant and say they don't believe he rose from the dead? They died because they believed he rose from the dead. That's a lie. Show me the sources where they died because they wouldn't deny Jesus rose from the dead. That's an exaggeration, like saying Horus walked on water and was crucified and had 12 disciples. Now, maybe you can find a later source. This is something that I want to make a point on, where a Hellenistic author might describe something from these ancient deities and their myths and use language of crucifixion. I'll give you a real one. Plutarch, I don't have the source up, but I know for a fact, you can go check me on this and see what I'm saying. Plutarch talks about the myth of Prometheus. For those who don't know, Prometheus was a Titan. He really sided with the gods when all the Titans had their Titanomachy. They fought. This is way back in the history of Greek mythology. It's one of the earlier epochs. Gaia and heaven and earth, really, they populate children. Let me just cut ahead here to just make this point. Prometheus is siding with humanity, like Enki or Ea, and I think Prometheus is inspired by the earlier Mesopotamian stories. So Prometheus, because he brings fire to mankind by stealing it from the gods and giving it to humans, he has an eternal punishment. I would call this a bona fide, legitimate mythic sacrifice, not a 3 days, all right, dude, now you get everything in the world. You just got to suck it up for one day and get killed. No, this guy spends eternity on a rock, and the eagle comes and eats his liver every day, and he has to suffer this torturous, eternal suffering. For who? For mankind. He's a savior of mankind by bringing fire. He saved humanity. And Zeus punishes him, puts him on the rock. And Plutarch uses the language of Roman crucifixion, Plutarch, look this up yourself, uses Roman crucifixion language describing Prometheus being nailed to the rock. So, in a sense, in Plutarch's mind, the myth is understood that Prometheus is being, in effect, crucified to a rock. That's powerful. To me, that's interesting. Like, okay, if we have myths of them being crucified to the rock, I don't knock mythicism out as a plausible explanation for other reasons as well. Tons of other reasons. Even though I lean into there maybe have been a dude, I don't knock mythicism out of the way. Like, it could be true. It could. Myths have people that get crucified. Myths tell embarrassing stuff. So if Bart Ehrman comes along and goes, no one would ever invent the horrific, embarrassing crucifixion of a Jew, Roman crucifixion of a Jew, no one would invent it. I don't think anyone would invent someone castrating their balls off and bleeding in front of a tree, or, list the embarrassing weird myth. And that becomes the central mythic story of the Attis and Sibylle myth, or you name it. Like, that criterion of embarrassment doesn't necessarily work for me. I don't know what the answer is. I'd rather sit here and go, I'm agnostic. I don't know where to go, but I lean into there being a dude, but like, dude, I can't draw that line. I don't know. All right. That was a real plausible explanation, but just wanted to make the point. I was looking up sources and I was like, I didn't find anything for Horus walking on water. I could call Karakuni. In fact, let me do this. Let me try. I'm going to do this. I don't usually do this. I'm going to call Karakuni. Let's see if Kara has some off the top. If she answers me. Let's see. She's the Egyptologist, in case you're wondering. Punk apostate in the house. What is up?
Your call has been forwarded to an auto.
All right. I'm going to just text her and say, I was live. I'm live. And wanted to pick your brain in front of, how many people do we have? 237 people. All right. And she might be working. She might still be like at the university or who knows what. I just figured I'd go. Yeah. Like, okay. So a lot of people, I'm not alone. It was a gateway drug, right? To considering like, hey, is Jesus really like up here? Because if you were in the apologetic sphere, like I was, not everyone might have saw Ravi Zacharias as their dude. He was my dude before the massage parlors and all that. I did not know about any of this. No one did that I know of. I had no clue. That was my apologist go-to. Him and William Lane Craig were the two main guys that I really went to. And Ravi Zacharias wrote that book, Jesus Among Other Gods. And, I felt confident. Yeah, Jesus. I mean, why would this guy from the East, Ravi Zacharias from India, become a Christian? And, I had all these excuses as to why Jesus is true, but it made me go, he's not comparable like to other gods. He's way beyond these other gods is what my mind would tell me while reading this book. And then you get across Zeitgeist and it goes all the way the other way. Like it's just the same story being told in every one of these other stories. They're just all copies of the identical thing. That's what this horror movie does in a way. And I think that's where they goofed up. If they were trying to have this really smart heretic, serial killing looking weirdo, they could have been more factually on point because he was hitting some zingers there. And then he made some like blunders. He also, there was a quote when they were in the first stage of the house, when he's talking to the girls, the one goes, "Oh, Spider-Man." And then he's like, "No." And he quotes the older source, but Spider-Man, I guess, does have the same quote pop up in it. And then I went on Reddit and someone was like, "That guy's wrong. He doesn't know what he's talking about." Then someone brought a primary source from the language this was originally written and said, no, he did say that. The heretic in the movie was right. So they could both be right. And then the Spider-Man's just an iteration, as the heretic's trying to point out in the movie, of that earlier quote from someone. So it's a fascinating movie of mental exercise. Okay. Here we go. Krishna. We're going to Krishna now.
Krishna. He was a carpenter, born to a virgin, baptized in a river, rose from the dead, and ascended into heaven.
Okay. Quick comment on that. He wasn't a carpenter. He was a herder, if you will. He was a farmer, so to speak. And then I pulled up some stuff here. Krishna's mother, Devaki, was married to Vasudeva. They conceived Krishna naturally. The text explicitly state that Krishna's conception involves sexual union, not virginity. Bhagavata Purana 10:2 through 10.3, Mahabharata, and Harivamsa explicitly detail the circumstances around Krishna's conception and birth, clearly involving normal parental relationships. And then primary Hindu texts describing Krishna's life include, there's 3 sources. None of these ancient scriptures describe anything resembling a baptism. Ritual immersion, snana, in rivers, particularly in the Ganges, was and is common in Hinduism. But these rites are about ritual purity and devotion, not analogous to Christian baptism, which symbolizes death and rebirth into a new spiritual life. What I find ironic about this is Christianity's baptism doesn't look like, I know everyone wants to go to Jewish ritual cleansing. Well, if that's the case, I guess we might as well argue that the Hindu ritual immersion is like the Jewish in a way. It's a custom, but it's not immersion as in you're becoming immortal and participating in the death and the renewal into this cult with the deity. And if that's the case, then Christianity is radically different than Judaism in that regard, which I think there is something to that. But guess what Krishna does when he dies? I think some animal or someone strikes his foot. Reminds me of Achilles in a way, the Achilles heel myth. There's also another myth in Greek mythology where Zeus, I'm going to come back to me for a second, where Zeus, his hills, there's something symbolic about the hills. I read this in Francesca Stavrakopoulos' book, God and Anatomy, and she shows that like the hill gets struck or taken, and it's a form of authority and power and right to rule, kind of like associated with a foot. When like Baal is sitting on the throne, his feet touch the footstool. When other deities try to usurp other gods, if their feet don't touch the footstool, the myth might cry out, their feet don't touch, and they don't pass. They cannot rule the throne. Well, the ankle or the Achilles, if you will, is an important part in myth about ruling and rulership. And so what happens in this Krishna scene is he gets struck in the hill, makes me think of Achilles dying by the strike of his foot, the hill. But when he dies, his soul, spirit, whatever you might call it in the East, ascends to heaven. So he does ascend to heaven in that regard, but is that the same as Acts 1, Acts 2? No. But is Acts 2 the same as what we see in Mark? Well, Mark doesn't narrate it, but what's going on in early Christianity? Maybe those sources don't even line up. Okay, continuing back. And then I'll take questions after we get through this real quick here.
This little gallery depicts 12 gods who were born on December the 25th, all of whom predate the existence of Jesus.
Okay. You've heard that one. If anyone knows Zeitgeist, you know this claim. They're all born on December the 25th. Like, that is just give me your sources. Okay. I'm not even going to say much more than that. Give me your primary sources that show these 12 gods, right, were born on that date. That's important. If you're going to make that claim, that's important. Now watch. He leads up all of this. You got to watch the movie yourself. I guarantee you, even though I spoiled it, the movie's still as fantastic as can be without you. Doesn't matter if I spoiled it or not. It might even help you when you go to watch it the first time to help you take in, because there's a lot happening I didn't understand till after.
I am sorry, but it is impossible to ignore the influence of one narrative upon another, or to ignore the fact that all these stories iterate into
Star Wars.
Star Wars episode.
So I agree. There's iterations. Clearly, I don't need December 25th. I don't need everything being a Xerox copy to recognize these are iterations. There's cross contamination of stories and myth, and that seems to be undeniably true. I went, Jesus is God in the flesh, I believe, to this guy, Zeitgeist, pretty much thinking that all of them might be the same and the same story. They're just copying the same exact story, doing the identical same things, to, I would say, a more balanced view. And what's interesting is you can attack the Zeitgeist view, and then they want to bring it all the way to the full, this one's special, ours is true, why die for it if it's a lie? That kind of apologetic nonsense to me. So I think, look, astrotheology is involved in most religions too. I imagine there's aspects of astrotheology as well. I was big into that. But like when you go from there's astrotheology in this to it's all a story of astrotheology, it's all just one, it's purely astrotheology, I'm extremely cautious and critical of making these bold claims. I just don't see that being the case. You then need to apply astrotheology to every and all of the myths of the ancient world. And I don't think that's what they're doing in all cases. I think there is some of this stuff along the way. But again, it gets into that all or nothing kind of category. And I don't think we should go all or nothing. I think we should take it a case-by-case basis and see what seems to make the most sense based on that. So that's where I'm at. Okay. He says it all leads up to what? Episode 1, Star Wars.
Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Can you imagine thousands of years from now, people accepting Jar Jar as a significant religious figure?
Beg your pardon?
Jar Jar.
Dude, they do so good acting in this. Beg your pardon? And you know, modern skeptics like to use comic book examples. I do it, even though I don't necessarily want to try and act like they are a perfect comparison. I think we all know that they're fictive. I don't think there's anybody who believes there was a real Superman or a real Batman or anything like that. I think maybe kids, like they think Santa Claus is real. Maybe there's children who think these are not. But overall, I don't think even adults think that these comic books have their history, right? I'm not so sure, but I don't think. So, okay. Continuing.
Jar Jar Binks. Jar Jar, excuse me. Never mind.
So these little moments, okay? Those little moments, like, never mind. Like, I'm thinking, here's this just old man who's by himself. He's just clearly done a lot of research, right? And clearly he's wrong about a lot of stuff here, as we pointed out. But he's a smart guy. You could tell in the video he's thinking logically about religion and how it's being passed along. And I'm thinking, okay, he's going to like let these young, frightened Mormon missionaries that he's really freaked out over and over, he's just going to let them go, right? He's going to do the right thing, teach them a lesson, teach them not to be gullible, give them some critical thinking, have their bubble popped a little and make them examine and go, you know, I really need to question this Joseph Smith thing. He made a jab in the first section of the house talking about Joseph Smith and his many wives, and that he was with this underage girl for probably sexual motivations, not for just, oh, I want to marry you because God, but like driven for passion, sexual passion. And the girls' faces were like, this isn't wrong. I need to talk to my bishop about it. You could tell they were really not liking what was being said by this guy. and he was spitting facts. They just so happen to end up in the wrong heretic's house. This goes downhill fast.
If God is real and he watches when we masturbate, and he has such a fragile ego that he only helps us when we beg him and shower him with praise, and he hates gay people for being what he made them to be, well, that's terrifying.
Now, have you not heard that one before? I mean, we say this stuff online, right? And I'm thinking to myself, damn, why did he have to turn it into this insanely creepy dude? Why? Because he's got a point, right? So it made me think, my interpretation after was like, man, I don't know if the people who made this movie realize how this just discourages skeptical thinking, skeptics, if you will. It's trying to almost push you toward believe anyways. It's like what I hear with a lot of apologists today. When you really nail them down and you really nail why you don't believe, and you're just getting into these arguments pointing out that it's just not persuasive, then they go, well, for pragmatic reasons, statistics, going to Michael Jones, for example, statistics show that being a Christian actually brings better to the world, and it helps in this way. Even if it weren't true, let's just say it's better that we do it anyways and believe it anyways and follow Christianity anyways, which, by the way, I am so skeptical of these statistics and that they somehow prove. I think there's so many factors and variations that may not be factored in, or sleight of hand in the wording. So maybe one statistic talking about just religious people in a certain area, which would include Muslims, Buddhists, Hindus, whatever, even people who are spiritual that aren't atheist. And then I just wonder how skewed some of these statistics are. But at the end of the day, I feel like this movie gives this guy a lot of good credence in his arguments, but then like pulls the rug out and goes, but we still should kind of believe anyways. And listen, I get it. We're all human. Some of us are going to, become atheists, go back to some form of spirituality. Some of us may leave spirituality, become skeptics, agnostics, atheists, whatever. It doesn't matter. We're all on our path, right? And I think to myself, if there's one movie that I can actually relate to this concept, let me come back to me for a second before we go back to this disbelief thing. If there's one movie that really grabbed me, that made me feel during the movie like I get it, it was The Life of Pi. The Life of Pi just hit me. Spoiler alert, ladies and gentlemen. I really, 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 really hope that you have watched The Life of Pi. If you haven't, it doesn't matter what I say, okay? You're still going to love that movie. So there's this young boy named Pi in the movie. He becomes a Muslim. He was a Hindu born. He's a Hindu family, becomes a Muslim. So he's a Hindu, Muslim, and a Christian. He's all three at once. His dad's an atheist. His mom is a Hindu, and I don't remember what the other sibling is. The family dies in this giant ship, and he's at sea on a boat with animals. Spare you all the details, but it gets real ugly. Animals are dying, being attacked. The tiger, I think, or the lion. I think it's a tiger. He's trying to get him while he's on the boat. Finally, at the end of the movie, spoiler, okay, I'm letting you know right now, the guy at the end of the movie who's documenting or really wanting to write a story about this is listening, and finally the Japanese, the ship liner that his family died on wanted to inquire on what happened to the cargo, to the giant ship, to everybody on it. Where did the boat go? They didn't know. It got lost at sea, but he's a survivor. So he tells this animal story to them. They don't believe it. We cannot believe this is a true story. It's fabulous. I mean, it is fictive. It is a myth, right? It is legend, I'll say. It's not literally true. And the reason why there's animals on the boat is because his dad was a zookeeper, a real zookeeper. So there were animals in the ship sank. Anyway, finally at the end, he's talking to the guy who's writing the story, and the guy's like, yeah, I have a hard time believing this is true too. And he goes, yeah, the the Chinese who came, or whoever they were, I can't remember, they're Chinese or Japanese, either way, they couldn't believe it either. So I told another story. This story was about how they survived on the boat. And it involved real humans, no animals, and how the cook in the boat was an evil man, killed his mom, and they had to eat the body of loved ones in order to survive from starvation on this boat, this little craft that's floating at sea. And they're like 70 something days in when he finally gets discovered, and he's the only one who made it out. So the guy who's like there is tearing up. You're tearing up. You're watching the shit tearing up. I mean, this is deep. It's sad. It's unfortunate that this guy survived the most horrific aspects of life. What we all experience. This is the worst of it. And then the guy goes, which story do you believe really happened? And he's like, clearly the one with the cannibalism, the one that's like real, that's more believable. And he goes, yeah, which one do you like better? And he's like, the animals. And then ultimately he sweeps the rug out from you, and he's like, well, the same is true with God. So in his mind, he's like, what's real, what's true? Probably not this God thing, right? It's a story. It helps us cope with reality in the world. But then he sweeps the rug out and goes, but which one did you like better? Make believe, imaginary kind of thing, or the cannibalistic dark truth of reality? And he's like, I like that fictive one better. Well, that's the same with God. You should go that route instead of the dark reality and stuff. It was a really fascinating movie that moved me, and I went, whoa, I get it. So I could see the pragmatic reason for kind of wanting something to be true, even if it isn't, because the world is so cruel at times. I mean, they're like, I can look out my window and watch a bird swoop down and grab the squirrel. My wife literally saw it the other day while driving, and saw something. She didn't know what it was. And a baby squirrel comes running out toward the bird, and it takes off with the mom. You could tell it's the bigger squirrel or something, flies off with the squirrel to eat it, to kill and eat the squirrel. And the baby's coming out there. Imagine the trauma that squirrel, just that one life on earth happening. And you go, this is reality. So you want to almost make believe because the world is crazy. And then you listen to people like the Gnostics who talk about, look at creation. There must have been an evil creator. Look at the horror of evil in the world around us. And how could a God sit back and not fix this? How could a God actually let this vicious cannibalistic cycle of evolution, life, and death constantly repeat itself? It's sometimes too much to bear for people and leads them to nihilism. And I think that's kind of what I think this movie might be doing with this guy, is trying to make him act like he has no morals or something. And there's some sick, twisted, demented thriller, fictive crap going on in this movie. Anyway. Yeah, reality sucks. Bless Goku. Love Goku, by the way. Love Dragon Ball Z. Love me some fiction. But it is real. You're right. And that's the thing. I like that we tell stories to give ourselves meaning and purpose, but I don't think we need to pretend and lie to ourselves with these stories as if they're true and they literally happened. That's the unfortunate part. I think we should learn to try and cope with reality. Try to do our best. Some people, I can't even imagine what they're going through in life. And that's why I'm trying my best not to be just completely cynical toward anyone who has faith or something like that. Like, I get it. I understand. There have been moments in my life where I almost died from heroin addiction, and I cried out. I didn't know what to do to survive. I was dying, and I cried out. At this time, this is like the end of my run in Christianity. I'm like, if there's anything, whatever you are, I can't stay clean. I need you. I didn't even need Jesus. I needed something because Jesus didn't do it for me. I was crying out to the universe, asking for something else. And one step at a time, I had to do the work. I went to these meetings. I started studying about my brain. I took it serious. But reality to me is how I've learned to actually control what I do in life and not have relapse. And I feel like some people want to escape reality and they think that that's the cure and it helps them in life. Whereas for me, I felt like just the real world and seeing things this way did the reversal for me. It actually helped me to become what I am today and how I am today. I hope that makes sense. Okay. Who's ready to get a little bit more into the spooky dooky, pooky booky stuff? Yes. I'd say the end of, I was about 10 years on off. Honey, how many years was I on and off opiates? Would you say 12? No, maybe 10. 10, because we've been together 19 years now. So I've been sober, clean. October the 25th will make 10 years. And I was on and off of opiates, painkillers, Vicodin, oxymorphone, Opanas, Oxycontin when they were crushable. Like I went through this phase for a decade on and off of opiates. I was addicted. And the feeling I had from that reminded me of being saved by Jesus, like the euphoric placebo, like that born again Jesus feeling. Like I got that feeling with heroin. Eventually it was heroin, but it's all in the family of that kind of opiate hitting those receptors. And down the road, I couldn't afford the pills one day and I tried heroin and I just sniffed it. And then eventually your tolerance is so strong and you can't get high. You want to get unsick even. Then, and I'm terrified of needles, but one day I tried it and I was panicking. I was freaking out, but I did it and it, for cheaper, did what more money would do with pills, and it was way cheaper. And then I got caught in that, and there were close calls, and I knew I was dying. So, you know, I like to be rational. I like to be logical. I like to bring critical thinking. You know that with MythVision, but I also understand that like not everyone's thinking rationally, logically, and how do we save them from killing themselves from their own patterns and behaviors that they don't know how to break? That's tough. So for me, I'm like, you know what? If Jesus gets you out of that, amen. Take Jesus. I'd rather someone do that than harm themselves, than hurt. I know what it's like. That's where I'm coming from. And that goes for anything. Whatever can help you better your life and you're not harming yourself and others. I am like, green light. Let the flowers bloom, baby. I would give caution, obviously, but you know, don't believe this shit about original sin or hell. That's a myth. Because that I don't see how that helps you or anyone else. Straight up. If you want to believe in some fairy tale stuff, go for it. Ignore that bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Like that's my tips is be a cherry picker. If you're gonna go into something, be the best cherry picker you can find. Go, I like that, I don't like that, and I'm not following that. I like that, I don't like that, I'm not following that. Do that with your moral compass. Most people, I think, are good. They're just good people. They're better than the religions they usually adopt. And with that being said, follow your gut and don't go with the ancient text. More often than not, don't go with the ancient text. Anyway, I really appreciate you sticking around for me rambling about this whole thing. I love y'all. I love you. Oh, really? Man, look, you got to subscribe to these people, by the way. Punk, he's interviewed me. And me and him are like two peas in the same pod. Like we seem to share kindred, you know, life experience when it comes to addiction. Go check him out. He streams often, by the way. Also, Ryan, go subscribe to Ryan as well. There's a lot of people that are in the chat. I love y'all. Really do. All right, we're going to watch this creep here do something weird. And then I want to hear your thoughts. I'd like to read your comments. Keep in mind, if you want your comments to go to the top, I'm reading super chats. They obviously help provide and take care of my family. And you cut the line. You get like special service, red carpet rolled out the whole night. So we'll get to questions in just a moment and comments. I'm curious to know your interpretation of this movie, if you've watched it, or comments about what you've heard, whatever. I'm interested to hear. Here we go.
There's no God,
then we're just horny microscopic ants floating on a rock through space with no divine purpose and no hope to achieve eternal life. Well, that's terrifying too.
That's terrifying too. There's just nothing like you can imagine a believer thinking, well, if this is all, natural and this is it, they get terrified. I know me and the wife, we've talked about that. Ryan, she has expressed her fear of, I don't want it to end. I want there to be something more. I get it. We're all taught that way.
Either the church is true or it is a fraud. It is the church and kingdom of God, or it is nothing.
You agree with that?
Okay, that was just a little clip. And I hope I didn't over spoil it. There is, before I get to questions, comments, there's a scene. Uh-oh. What did I do? Okay, here we go. Got something playing. All right. So, the door he wrote, disbelief and belief. The girls start combating back and they argue a little here and there with him. They just want to get the hell out. They choose a door. They go down in the door and it just gets darker and darker and darker. And for that, I think I've done a good job of avoiding going into the details of where the movie goes. I think I'll stop there. I think it's only fair for the viewers who haven't watched, because for the viewer who's watching me right now and watched this Heretic video, we could get into that, but you already know what's going to happen. You already know the creepy, crazy stuff that's going to occur and the interesting critical thinking skills that the Mormon has toward the end. But I don't think it's necessary to get into here. So let me turn to you and see what you have. See what everybody in the chat's saying here. I'm going to scroll up a little bit here. All righty. Max's random videos. That movie was good, but the depth in reality isn't really good. But I loved the answer in the end. Religion is control. The real God is nothing but chaos. Interesting. Velvet Underground. I have concerns about people who do a geographic by converting, as long as they don't go off on others with it. Yeah, like don't harm other people with your ideology. There's so many cults though that I have to be like, all right, dude, we got to talk some shit about this. Carrie, good to see you here. Thank you for being in the chat. Seriously, Carrie. Everyone quits opiates eventually. True. Whether you do it while you're alive or because it's that bad. Okay, let's see what we have. Any comments, any questions? I converted to Neoplatonism, return to the one. Decades, thanks for being here. You've been here for a minute. God is scarier than nothing. Interesting. Matthew Broderick looks terrible. Got to do a watch party. Did he ever look particularly good, though? I guess this is a conversation about the actor. I try to digest information through my own understanding. I know what I digest, religion, science, etc. I contemplate their teachings. I don't take them on authority, if that makes sense. Yeah. By the way, I look like a cherry red. Let me hit these lights. Bear with me. Because it's dark, I bet, but maybe not. Maybe I'm just totally red right now. It's kind of, I am a little warm. How am I now? Oh, it's not that bad. Okay, I'm blinding light. Let me grab a water real quick, fam. Get your questions ready, comments, whatever. I'll come right back and I will read them. Seriously, get them ready. I don't want to be like waiting for them. I want to try and get into them. So bear with me 1 second. Here I am. Whew, too bright. Isn't it? Felt like it. Maybe that's better. I guess. Let's try that. Okay. Where are we at? Where are we at? Being trapped in a room with two missionaries does sound like a horror movie. Good comment. Great comment, actually. I really appreciate the funny here. Super chat, Mark in the hizzy. Thank you so much for the super chat, Mark. Really appreciate the support. Perhaps you could look at religious themes in other movies too. I think The Truman Show is a great analogy for atheism as well as a great movie. I loved that movie. What's another one? I mean, it's obviously like Plato's Cave, where you get outside of it and you're like, whoa, the shadows aren't real and there's something bigger, right? To me, that's how I feel, even though I know Plato's Cave is not making a case for non-theism. It's clearly trying to go beyond the shadows of the world and go to the real reality that he's claiming. For me, I do like that analogy, though. It does help to kind of escape we're being told a bunch of nonsense. Yeah, I'm trying to think of another movie that's like that. Huh. I mentioned it the other day. I can't think of another movie that is like that. Truman Show, yeah. Anyone else? Is there another movie like The Truman Show that you could think of that is like Plato's Cave, so to speak, where they come out and they realize that they've been duped? The Matrix is like it, yeah. Yeah. The Matrix. I just feel like in The Matrix, for me, though, once he wakes up to reality, it's this dark, crude world, right? And I guess you could say that's kind of reality, but I don't wake up and live my existence miserable. Oh, the terrible, horrible world. You know, maybe we naturally live with cognitive dissonance in a way of rationalizing the world to think positive. The sun's shining. It's a good day. And I like the glass half full. I'm a positive person. But that's the only thing I felt was like, damn. It's like, it kind of has that negative outlook, right? Let me see. Woman in the Dunes, a Japanese film from 1960s. Really good. Midnight Mass on Netflix. The Village. Yeah. It's not like Plato's Cave that way, but there is a sense in which you wake up to like the real world. Inception. Hold on. Inception. What was that movie again? I freaking know this movie. Inception. Is this the dream within the dream within the dream? Yep. People's dreams. He gets in like this third, fourth level of dream. Yeah, but he never escapes, it doesn't seem, right? Doesn't he stay trapped? Like he tries to escape, but he can never escape? From what I understand, it was a really good movie, though. So I keep seeing The Village, The Island now. So The Island, Punk says, The Village. Huh. Everything by Mike Flanagan is good. Yeah, I like those kind of movies. You're like, huh, what? The Matrix, the Fight Club. Fight Club was cool. But yeah, that was a good movie. It kind of has that. It's more like Secret Society, but then it also the one dude is both dudes. It seems at the end of the movie. So, I don't know what you would compare that to. Wendy says They Live, the 80s movie They Live. Okay, we got another super here. Man, Bear, Pig. Good to see you here. Thanks for the super. Have you seen the movie Silence by Martin Scorsese? I'm probably butchering that. It's about Jesuits and the persecution of Christians And Feudal Japan, great movie. No. Silence. 2016. Let me pull it up. Silence. It's a horror drama. Oh gosh. There's a few good actors though. Let's see what it says. 2016 epic historical drama film directed by Martin Scorsese. I'm probably butchering that. From a screenplay by Jay Cox and Scorsese, based on 1966 novel the same name by Shusaku Endo, marking the third film adaptation. So what's it about? Pre-production phase, filming over 2 decades. Plot: veteran Portuguese Jesuit priest forced to watch Japanese converts to Japanese converts to Christianity are tortured to death for refusing to renounce their faith. A few years later, at St. Paul's College in Macau, an Italian Jesuit priest, Alessandro Velagnano, receives news that Ferreira renounced his faith in Japan. In disbelief, Ferreira's Portuguese pupils, the young Jesuit priest Sebastião Rodrigues and Francisco Garupe, set off to find him, guided by Kichiro. I don't even know how to. Some of these names are just what the hell. A fisherman stranded in Macau. Kichiro is seeking redemption as he renounced his faith to save himself, while the rest of his family was put to death by burning them alive. Interesting. Sounds pretty rough. Yeah, that sounds pretty rough. I've never seen that. Never have I ever. But I might check it out now that you brought it to my attention. I got to get a new show series to get lost into with Ryan. We'd like to do that at night. Like once I get off of here, shower, show. Shit shower show. There you go. How about that? I needed a third S. Give me a break. Give me a break. Okay, ho. What do you think of 1 Samuel 15:3? Did Samuel really wrote it? And how God said that? Let's pull it up. 1 Samuel 15. What's the verse here again? 15:3. All right. Hold on. I can't do that. I got to go to Cross Bible. It's the unforgivable sin if I don't go to my buddy's website. That's literally where I'm at with this now. And I'm trying to get everyone else to start going to Cross Bible for any Bible verses that you're trying to pull up. I just need to learn how to navigate the site better. But okay. Accept all. We're going to go with NIV. Screw it. Now go, attack the Amalekites and totally destroy all that belongs to them. Do not spare them. Put to death men and women, children and infants, cattle and sheep, camels and donkeys. This is what the Lord Almighty says. So Samuel said to Saul, I am the one the Lord sent to anoint your king over his people Israel. So listen now to the message from the Lord. This is what the Lord Almighty says. I will punish the Amalekites for what they did to Israel when they waylaid them as they came up from Egypt. So Samuel's telling Saul what supposedly the Lord is saying. And he's saying, yeah, annihilate them all. So the question was, did Samuel really write it? I don't know. I don't think Samuel wrote Samuel. No, I would say that that's probably a later work. I would imagine that Samuel did not write 1 Samuel, but they're claiming the prophet Samuel did. So, or they're saying Samuel said. So someone's writing it. They're naming the book after Samuel, but I doubt Samuel wrote the book. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong. I do not know. But since that was your question, I figure I'd answer it. That creepy image, everybody. Dude, this scene, I didn't want to get into all of this. This is honestly, that's that I'm gonna have a bad dream kind of scene, like creepy stuff. Okay. Departed was amazing. The Departed, that was a deep, crazy movie. Leonardo was hooked on pills in that one, wasn't he? Crazy. Handmaid's Tale. Honey, did you watch all of that? The Handmaid's Tale? You did? So you already like, is it worth watching again for me to watch with you, or you don't think I'll be into it, or I will? Okay. So I did watch an episode. And it was pretty like dramatic. I'm not going to lie, but I haven't watched the show. She watched the whole thing. And I remember like, it's a good show when she's in tears. When I walk around the corner and I see, but then again, she cries on almost everything. Huh? Don't you? She said, shut up. Like, shut up. Okay, I'll shut up. William Arons, thank you for the super chat, my friend. People finding spiritual messages and meaning in popular media makes the censoring and prohibition of media by religious authorities understandable. Hold on. Let me read that again. People finding spiritual messages and meaning in popular media makes the censoring and prohibition of media by religious authorities understandable. I'd love for you to give me a little more here, William. Am I correct in understanding your point in saying they kind of want to control the narrative, and because other narratives are giving other spiritual lessons, whether it be Lord of the Rings, something that has many gods like Game of Thrones or something, and they're not happy with the narrative being peddled, even if it has spiritual significance, so they are trying to censor or prohibit it among their members or prohibit it from going public? Help me out. Make sure I'm not butchering your super chat here. Seriously, thank you for the support. I really, really do appreciate it. I really mean that. It's been a tough month for YouTubers. I imagine I'm not the only one. Things have gotten really rough in terms of slowing down. And yeah, so thanks a lot for the support. And William, I am sticking here waiting for you in the chat. I really, 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 really hope you'll give me your 2 cents on that. I'll coming back to you, William, if you pop. So anyway, let's see. I think Witch Doctor and I will be in touch with you and Nil soon. Marcel the Magos. Marcel, good to see you in the chat. Dogs don't know it's not bacon. Let's see. I just looked into the evidence for Samuel, and while there's allegedly evidence that he was a real person, it's clear there really isn't any. Huh. I haven't done a deep dive on Samuel. I need to. Goddamn, Derek should have stayed in Greek mythology. What do you mean? Help me out. What are you talking about? All right. William, where are you at, brother? I'm waiting on you. Jesus isn't coming back till you answer, my friend. Derek should actually go forth and share his knowledge. Jackman plays a stellar psycho. Oh, yeah, that was a good one. Book of Eli was a good movie. Yeah, that was Denzel Washington. He's a blind man. I'm giving it away, aren't I? You got to watch the movie. It's crazy. I'm already ruining the whole damn movie. But I love that movie. That was good. He's a absolute badass. Man, Bear Pig again. Slightly off topic, but have you seen Train Spotting? You Choose Life? I do not know. I do not know, Sam I am. Let me see. Is it you said Train Spotting? Train Spotting. Okay. Yeah, Train Spotting. No, I haven't. 1996. I haven't seen this. It's a Scottish black comedy drama film. 26-year-old unemployed heroin addict living with his parents and Leith regularly takes drugs with his friends. Treacherous, womanizing James Bond fanatic Simon Sick Boy Williamson. Docile and bumbling Daniel Spud Murphy and Swanee Mother Superior, their Diller. Renton's other friends include aggressive alcoholic psychopath. Sounds like a fun, interesting movie. I've never seen that. Train Spotting. Might have to check that out. Absolutely going to have to check that out sometime. All right, let me see. Where are we at? William, yes, you're here. Yes, they want to control the narrative and don't want alternative ideas to infect their congregations. I have seen that. I've seen that a lot. And then even ones that allow, they might want to make sure they bend over backwards to correct the record or, help make sure that they are still in the flock and they don't run away. Joe, I got your email. I am so sorry I haven't responded yet, but I will. Give me just a little bit of time and don't stop. Don't give up on me. I'm right now, I am just trying one mission minded kind of guy. So forgive me if I haven't responded yet. I did see your email though. I promise you I am getting them. Movie about addicts. Yes. Would like Requiem for a Dream. I think I've heard of this. Requiem for a Dream. Looks interesting. Good actors and actresses. Something worth checking out. Absolutely. It may be triggering. I don't get triggered by drug use. If anything, often it shows me what I never want to do again personally. Even the glorious moments where it feels good, no shit, Sherlock. I did it for over 10 years because it felt good, but then it felt bad, right? There's a reason you do it. But I'm clearly at a state where I know trouble. And I'm so distant from it in my mind and in my life and my lifestyle. It's not a thing like that. So really appreciate it. Would not win a movie trivia tonight. No, I would not. I don't think I'd win a movie trivia most nights or any night. T2 was good too. Don't know that it wouldn't be triggering to addicts. Mushroom. Derek, you should go incognito and invite David Hillman to an event and pay his way to have an in-person debate with Stephen or someone else who's informed. That would be awesome. I want to leave him alone. I just feel what's the point? Personally, for me, we disagree. It is what it is. He's doing his thing. I don't think he's ever going to debate Stephen. And I don't even want to keep riding that train and doing all that. I think there is a lot of cross-pollination in our audience. And it's unfortunate, in my opinion, that they feel like they must choose sides or something. No. I would recommend anybody take them with a grain of salt. That much salt, a whole cup of salt. Pour it on your food and just spoonfuls, okay? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, very funny, hypothetical here, very funny. But the truth is, I don't see him, if he does not know what he's getting himself into, I don't think he's going to do it. I think he chose to go against an exorcist for a reason. Bob, the guy, that guy had no clue. He had no clue what to say, what to do. It's like getting a kindergartner and then trying to challenge him on something he has no awareness of. So it's low-hanging fruit, easy stuff. And it'll never happen, I don't think. I don't think it will. Punks is all about dope addiction. Yeah, I mean, maybe I won't be into a movie that's only and all about that. I've seen some, but again, I'm not triggered by it. Let me see. Derek, what's good and God stay pimp tight home slice? Shit. Appreciate that. Appreciate the love. The Shining, lots of theories about the movie as well. I like those movies that are so complex that they leave you with hypotheses to explore. Like this one we were commenting on tonight. At the end, I was reading on Twitter, not Twitter, on Reddit. And there's people who are saying like, this seems to be what happened at the very end. And, no, she didn't really this. I don't even want to say it because there's people who need to watch it. But I like those movies where different interpretations can be said at the end. And you kind of wonder if the Gospel of Mark had that in mind. But the women told no one, but they were afraid, right? Is that what he was doing? I don't know. Leaving a little cliffhanger there. I was just kidding, Derek. I don't know if you would like Requiem for a Dream. I don't know this movie. You're going to get me. You're going to get me. Toby with a super sticker. Thank you, Toby. Really appreciate that. Appreciate the support. Did you comment? Toby? I'm looking for your name. Appreciate that. I don't see it. You're just showing some love. I appreciate it. Really do. You're funny. What? Dang. All right now. All right. I hear you. Just showing love, Toby. Thank you. Appreciate the love. Good omens. If God exists, someone wrote, if God exists, how can he order people to unalive infants and babies and camels, what they did wrong to him? I mean, clearly, you're dealing with like Iron Age remnants of Bronze Age myth, and if there is any history behind the conquest of empires doing this to people, then yeah, it's literally just showing an ancient, I would say, immoral ideal that clearly someone like even by the 1st century, 2nd century of the Common Era, Marcion, would see this stuff and go, there's no way that that's the God of Jesus. The God of Jesus is love. That God can't be that God because of these horrific, clearly not a good God texts, right? And yeah, I get it. I think these are humans writing, saying God said, just like today, cults will say, well, God said to me, and God said this, do this. And a lot of these cults, I get fascinated on Netflix with my wife. We'll go on and we'll watch, like, you'll see like a pattern. Not all, but a lot of these cults are the leader ends up in a sexual situation with many of the devotees. And it's like, God said, take your shorts, take your pants off. God said. And you're like, there's like this pattern, right? Well, how do you know God said that in 1 Samuel versus Bobby down the street in his little cult building with 30 members that God didn't say to him? How do you know that? Clearly, you don't, if you're someone who's open to that whole thing. I think it's so obviously man-made and clearly the human that is making these statements. And I think that's common sense. Like I'm not gonna say it's common sense because there's a lot of that lacking, but like it seems to be the most obvious thing when you're no longer needing to explain it with God did, angel did, demon did, miracle did. You know what I mean? Have you read the book called The Two Babylons? I don't think I have. I don't think so. The Two Babylons. Okay, let's see. Subtitled Romanism and Its Origins is a book that started out as a religious pamphlet published in 1853 by Presbyterian Free Church of Scotland. Theologian, I've heard of this. I have heard of this, but I've never read it. Central theme is the argument that the Catholic Church is the Babylon of the Apocalypse. Oh, so that makes sense. Protestants will definitely say the Catholic Church is the bad guy. The book delves into the symbolism of the image, which is described in the book of Revelation. I used to think this when I was a Protestant in the Presbyterian PCA church. I went along with Mystery Babylon was the Roman Catholic Church because of the slaughtering of other people that they try to convert and all the torturing that you've seen through the Inquisitions and stuff. I thought, oh, she's guilty of being, drinking the blood of the saints and, all this stuff. Like I that was my interpretation for a long time. But then it says, and its modus operandi in general stem from non-scriptural precedents. It analyzes modern Catholic holidays, including Christmas and Easter, attempts to trace their roots back to pagan festivals. It also attempts to show that many other accepted doctrines, such as Jesus' crucifixion on a cross, may not be correct. Hislop provides a detailed comparison. Haven't read it. Something worth reading at some point just to understand what maybe this person's saying. Oh, okay. So it gets into a lot more than what I commented on about the apocalypse. But, there were a lot of interesting like Protestants who were doing this kind of mythicist-ish thing for a while. Worth learning more about. Appreciate you commenting there. Got a super chat, Superhuman Theory in the house. Thank you, Superhuman. I really appreciate it. If you like Heretic, you may also like an older movie called Frailty. Great movie on the danger of religious delusion. It's a fun ride. Frailty. Let me look that up. Okay, I spelled it wrong, but oh well. Here we go. Sharing my screen. Okay. Matthew McConaughey in here. 2001. American psychological horror film directed by and starring Bill Paxton and co-starring Matthew McConaughey and Powers Booth. Okay, plot. In the office in Dallas, FBI agent Wesley Doyle, visited by Fenton Minks. I don't want to say Minks. There's no N. Meeks, who says his brother Adam is the culprit in the God's hand serial killings. Fenton says Adam has committed suicide, prompting Fenton to fulfill a promise to bury his brother in a public rose garden in their hometown of Thurman, Texas. He begins to talk about his childhood and suggests the bodies of the God's hand victims are buried in that garden. I don't want to spoil it. I'll probably watch some of these and then do another stream with you just to go over like, what the was that? Thank you so much for the super chat and also for the recommendations for a lot of these movies, just stuff to watch with the Queen. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. I never been a horror thriller kind of guy. Every once in a while there's one I like, but most of the time, I'm cautious. I'm not into them usually. But that looks interesting, and the actors are great. So someone says great movie. The Great Jesus Mythicist said great movie. Let's see. The Russian film is it V 1968. The Game, Sean Penn. I probably have some like after this stream's up. Comment like because I'm going to forget a lot of these. Comment like some really good movies. If you're watching this later too, and you're not watching this live, if you've made it this far, comment like these are movies you should check out. These are some really good ones, and here's why. Maybe give me a little something to tease me, and I'll probably start chipping away at some of these. As long as my wife is happy and enjoying them, because if not, we try to find common ground. It's our ritual. You know what I mean? It's our ritual, habit, pattern, whatever. Constantine by Keanu Reeves. You really should, Joe. If you got Max on your TV, go check it out. It's fun. The mental games, this guy, he's like nailing them on some stuff that I think he's on point with. And then he does this, me being a stickler, because I already know, like, if his whole reason is, oh, there's 12 gods on December 25th and this and that. Like, again, just to sum up, and then I'll jump off of here. If the whole point of him being a non-believer was based on that, you know, clearly I could see an apologist going, yeah. We need to debunk that idea, that notion that they're all born on the same day and they're all crucified with 12 disciples and walked on water and this and that. Like, you don't need that. You don't even need the Xerox identical. You don't need all that to know, yeah, it's inspired. It clearly is influenced. And I wish it was a little more nuanced in that, because it would show that complex thinking from someone like him that recognizes the iterations that it is inspired and influenced, but it's not a Xerox copy. There's a reason why the last song that is disputing with Radiohead was saying, no. And there was like, they were going to court and they didn't just say, no, I was inspired by you. Okay, I admit it. Let's share some of the royalties. They fought it tooth and nail. No, there is room for fighting it. And I have something just to tease everybody here. I'd like to do it this Saturday. It might be this Saturday with Joshua Bowen and Kipp Davis. So everyone knows Wes Huff, Christian apologist, has got a lot of glory since debating with Billy Carson. And he got a lucky ticket to like fame through this debate, which was just kind of, in my opinion, the way that it was handled was wrong. But he's been making these public videos and showing up on massive, mostly right-wing type channels, but like massive platforms, trying to argue it's a myth that Genesis is borrowing mythology from these earlier myths. Like, he's downplaying these comparisons. Joshua Bowen is coming with the Akkadian. He's coming with the older myths. He's coming with the Hebrew. And he's going to be making a case to show why Genesis is genetically dependent on the Enuma Elish. And I think that's a very important thing to make, because these guys never end, and they're spewing bullshit. Truth be told, a lot of it. The other day, I was scrolling through, because once you watch one video, it starts recommending everything from that person. You watch my videos, it'll start recommending other videos. Well, there was one recently where Wes was teaching at a college. I think it was Campbell University. I can't remember. But he quotes Lucian and Lucian's true history and acts like Lucian would have gave the thumbs up to Luke's preface, the opening to Luke, which is like, there are many who've taken the account. I've spoken to some and I'm writing this account, like as if Lucian would have gave an A in school. Great history writing, Luke. Dude, when you read Lucian's How to Write History, he's like extremely rigid and very scientific and precise about how you write a good history. He would have flunked Luke. Guarantee you he would not have seen Luke as a good history. And here he is in front of a college. Wes Huff is going, Lucian, who wrote How to Write a History, and then he quotes the preface to Luke's gospel. And I'm like, that is not, he doesn't say where he gets his sources, like none of that in Luke. And, you know, anyone who's read Lucian's writing on how to write a history, he goes in and talks about Thucydides, and, you know, these were really good historians doing really good work on accurate accounts. And he always always in all of Lucian's writings, even probably pseudo-Lucius, like Lucian, pseudo-Lucian, where he's arguing against cynics and stuff. Even in those kinds of writings, where they're saying Lucian wrote these things, he condemns mixing legend with history. He outright says, you've committed an unforgivable sin. If you mix your history with legend, then his argument is that the centuries later, the posterity will not know what actually happened because you're blending in fictive with history. And he condemned it. Anyone who knows Lucian knows this. Why is he quoting Lucian and then using it to bolster Luke? Clearly, he hasn't read Lucian. Lucian condemns that kind of writing where you're mixing in legend and historical verisimilitude and stuff as if this is what really happened. And it just bothers me how blindly people absorb this stuff and don't go read Lucian. Don't take Derek's word. Don't take Wes's word. Don't take any of our fucking words. Go research this stuff. It's just annoying to see the brain rot and people just kind of like blindly finding allegiance to the tribe. Screw if I'm a skeptic or an atheist. I don't care. Go look this stuff up. Let's get facts straight. Let's not peddle a bunch of nonsense to try and rise to the top to tickle your ears. No, I want you to go check this out for yourself. So yeah, there's a little pissing contest there because I just, something about that proper uptight cop type mentality that he has, the way that he acts, very tight ass, like it's annoying and it seems fake. And it's like, dude, I don't know. Maybe we need to have like an MMA match, me and him. Someone put it together. Me and Wes Huff, put the gloves on. Let's throw down, bro. Let's throw down. You know what I'm saying? The Life of Brian. That was a funny movie. That was a funny movie. I really, really enjoyed that one. Yeah, it is a half-ass on that. Even though his Greek's really good, he's just, I loved how Dennis McDonald said it. He said, Dennis McDonald would say, like, yeah, so he's claiming he's going to write this thing and he's giving a better account than the others before, in effect, pooping on the other versions of the Gospels that were already written. Sorry, guys, Matthew, Luke, or whoever else he's probably talking about. And then, like, a few verses later, there's angels flying from heaven down into the temple. And Dennis McDonald's like, that's not how, like, history's right. They don't write that way. We're just like, I'm going to write the most amazing history, and it's going to be so factual. And then the leprechaun at the end of the rainbow. It's like, what the hell are you doing, dude? You just, like, broke some of these rules by, like, inserting fictive aspects that you find within legend and plays and things like that, epics and stuff, and then just like insert it in this bio style type writing, and this is bona fide history? Nah. Look, I'm telling you, bro. What's up? Okay, look, I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna go watch some TV with the Queen. Really appreciate it. Who is Lucian, guys? Okay, so sorry. I think this is important before we do dip here. Lucian of Samosata. He's a satirist, and he's got some writings that you really have to read. I swear you have to read some of this stuff. He makes me laugh so hard. He hits Peregrinus so hard. I got to get into the Alexander one. He did like an absolute takedown of like cult leaders. This is, I'm going to give you the wiki link in the chat. So if you're wondering who Lucian is, I promise you, he's an ancient MythVision. Except he's way funnier and just better with words. He's a skeptic. I don't know what else to call him. He's a straight up skeptic. He is absolutely like 2nd century. He's right there in the neck of the woods where Christianity is claimed to have originated, in the sense that the narratives are right there in Syria, Galilee region and stuff. You really need to check that bad boy out. Wade, you too, my friend. Mushroom, y'all have a wonderful night. I'm going to head out. Totally awesome. It's a funny movie. Thank you, all South Park. Absolutely. Ryan, good to see you here. Again, I just sent you the link, my friend. Lucian, this is Lucian. Got to check out the link. Go read. He has the first fictive going to the moon, a true story. The one that gets into this stuff that he was quoting is How to Write History. Where's it at? Hold on. Where is he at? Okay. List of works. Maybe I need to go here. Let's just go to list of works. All right. Not a true history. A true story, sorry. Did I pass it? Man, he wrote a lot. Let me just Google it. That'll be easier. How to write history. Okay. This is it. Study of the classical Syrian writer Lucian, which may be considered the only work on the theory of history writing to survive from antiquity. It's important. First part of Lucian's essay involved a critical attack on contemporary historians. Lucian maintained that they confused history with panegyric. Was it panegyric? What the hell does that word even mean? Hold up. A public speech or published text in praise of someone or something. What's a synonym for it? Citation, eulogy, tribute. Okay. All right. Overloaded it with irrelevant details and weighted down with overblown rhetoric. Lucian recommended, instead of virtues of clear narration and the valorization of truth, he argued that the historian should write for all times as a free man, fearless, incorruptible, and a friend of truth, and held up the work of Thucydides as the legislative template for all subsequent historians. He argued that the historian's sole task is to tell the tale as it happened, which is latter reflected in works of von Ranke, among others. So if Luke's writing, my estimation with this is if Luke is writing a writing that is clearly as it happened, then he's lying. That if Luke is intending to say, this is what happened, right? He's lying. And guess what? Lucian saw that in contemporaneous historians. He saw that they were lying. They're making up stuff. So Heretic was a good movie, bro. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. I think so too. Go watch Heretic, fam. If you haven't watched it, you'll have fun. And if you're like not into these thriller kind of horror movies, trust me, it's only momentary for certain moments, but it's good. It's worth watching. Thank you so much, everybody. Love you. I'm gonna head out. Have a good one. Never forget, we are MythVision.
Son, do you want to know what the truth is? After this, there's no turning back. You take the blue pill and you wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill and you stay in Wonderland, and I show you just how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.